Dia bukan kat depan you tau. Dia kat kiri kanan. You have to
See if I can reach it from here.
Hold these bricks and help gently pull the tissue apart.
I wanted to set out to save a person's life and, through technological innovation and, really uplift the human spirit. I had these high ideals and now to see it actually coming to life and see, real surgeons come in and like try it out and go, I get this. This is really useful. It's fantastic.
We're gonna put you in VR.
Sure, yeah, that's great.
Okay.
That's really cool.
Shall we do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Hey.
It was very, very realistic. The depth with your hands and the instrumentation with your hands felt actually quite natural. The distance when I moved my hand felt like what I would move in real life, which is really neat and intriguing. You did get a fairly realistic idea in terms of your depth perception as well, in terms of where to place instruments, what kind of depth the patient is away from. It's very cool.
At some point in time, we might see where we can actually take the simulated environment and make it a case-specific environment. That is, you have somebody with a particularly challenging disease or surgery coming up, and the surgeon themselves could actually run through it and have the imaging and and different parts of it built into the software, so the surgeon can actually have an opportunity to practice a case before they actually do that particular case.
UVR is the ultimate exploration inside of the human body. Fully immersive, living, breathing, simulated human body. It's a powerful way for us to be connected within our own health, to be able to understand what's happening inside of our own bodies in a much better, more visual, more intuitive way.
The U platform was on many different devices, but we always knew that virtual reality would play a huge role in how we redefine how health is communicated and understood. We'll be integrating with many of the hospital systems, for example, education and hospital networks, so together we can improve patient lives in an entirely new way.
We'd always envisioned virtual reality as something that we'd love to get into. We jumped right in to make our platform compatible and working.
I can walk around it, I can see all the arteries in 3D, and I can see it enlarged, and I can interact with it directly and cause changes in it. Pull out the brain, have it isolated, and then interact with it. Visualize the neurologic connections in the brain. Visualize how your state of mind changes those. It's that personalization that's really amazing. And then think about diseases like diabetes. We can isolate a pancreas. We can show you that in the state of diabetes, how the hormone regulation is altered, how glucose is elevated in the blood and the impact that that has. This is very hard for patients to understand. The heart, there's so much that can be done in the heart because the heart is a mechanical pump, and we can simulate that pump as it normally works, but then we can show how if a valve becomes stenotic, how it doesn't close completely, and you can watch blood leaking through that valve as it's pumping. If you think of lungs, there are many diseases in the lungs. One of the great health concerns today is smoking, one of the leading causes of lung disease that there is. We can show you, here's what actually happens in your lungs. Let's go inside there. Let's go down the trachea and into the bronchus. Let's go all the way down to the finest little air sacs called the alveoli. To be able to see that in front of you is so different than a doctor trying to explain it to you and then explain why you need to take this medication.
Room scale is a huge advantage for us. Once we received our Vive, we were pretty quickly able to take all the work that we'd done on the mobile platform to then take the controls from that and put them into virtual reality, give people a chance to put their hands in there and be able to control everything. The ability to be tracked in a space and get around and look around at the tracking and everything else is spot on. We have an amazing team here of scientists and artists and programmers and painstaking amount of detail that goes into all of the work.
I started out as a research scientist in molecular biology. My job really is to drive the science and medical content.
I'm working with medical director and the artist to make sure that it's the highest visual quality that the studio could possibly put out.
We employ physicians as consultants on everything we do.
We're building out all the structures that are inside these organs. We're adding animation, we're adding physiology to this. It's not Hollywood, it's not made up.
Our #1 mandate here is to be as medically accurate as we possibly can, taking license where we have to, obviously.
It really is an endless evolution. All of the organs, all of the diseases that might happen in those organs, all of the treatments that will occur, continue to build onto it and update it and allow people to tell their stories with it. Physicians are very excited about being able to use this as a tool to educate their patients. Also students in medical school be able to learn all of these structures, all the physiology of the human body.
There's a huge barrier to getting into the complexities of medical function, especially the human body. Get away from the medical jargon and let's look at how things work. Let's actually see it working. We believe that understanding is really the key to positive outcomes in treatment. The possibilities aren't even realized yet of all the directions we're going to go.
With the help of lifelike dummy Steve, the team have begun experimenting with what's known as mixed reality.
Essentially how this works is we are tracking using infrared cameras a person's head as well as their hands using points on their gloves and a head tracker on a head-mounted display. And this allows us to align their real-world actions with the virtual actions. So as you can see, they move the head and the hands, and they will roughly align to the virtual world. So we've both got a virtual body here, but we've also got a real simulated body in the real world. So when they actually reach out and touch something, they do actually feel something, and they can kind of start to sort of ascertain the problems.
Down the line, the virtual world casualty could suffer from any wound and react to treatment in a realistic way. Professor Robert Stone heads up the Birmingham team, which works with the MOD and looks forward 20 years into the future.
We're currently looking at the 2035 timeframe, 2035, 2040. The big problem we have is that 6 months down the line, there will be a new piece of technology, be that a head-mounted display or a glove, or even smell technology, which will come out, and we'll have to revise that, and we'll revise what we believe will be available that far ahead. So it's always a juggling act from every 6 month period forward.
Using what's available today, the team are experimenting with mixed reality.
And when I finally put on the headset, I can now see the mixed reality table, which is being superimposed over this rather standard table. And the way the system works is it's very much like a map, and it enables you to interact with that in a quite intuitive way. So you can just sort of pinch to zoom with your hands to move in and out. You can also use your hand at the edge of the table, which rotates the map around. And you can also, of course, move in with your head itself, because everything's fully tracked. So as you step around the table, it follows you.
The user can bring up documents and even mark routes and zones on the virtual world.
Ultimately, I think we'd hope that those big maps that are pinned to the walls of command centres will be a thing of the past, really. We'll be able to just store it all virtually, and ideally the headsets will get a lot smaller. It'll almost be just like wearing a pair of glasses, and you'll have access to this almost unlimited amount of data.
As the technology develops and we can create much more believable environments, and we can start sort of stimulating the senses, all the senses that we were born with, including things like smell, then we're going to be able to have much more effective, much more believable training environments than we've ever had before.
It's not just virtual reality. The team are also experimenting with drones to generate 3D video.
This is the replica Afghan village at Thetford, which will be familiar to the thousands of troops who did their training here before deploying to Helmand. That campaign might be well in the past, but today the village is helping to develop the technology of the future.
And this is it. It's an off-the-shelf drone which might not look like much, but combine it with some advanced software and you've got a powerful surveillance tool in your hands.
Chris is programming the drone to adopt a scanning pattern on the second part of the Afghan village. We've scanned the first part, and now what he's doing is he's setting all the GPS coordinates so that the drone can take off, adopt a starting position, and then do a kind of zigzag or raster scan. And then in doing that, it'll be able to take sort of snapshots.
Every time the drone takes a new snapshot, it adds a GPS tag using its altitude and position. Using that data and some clever software, the team produce a 3D model of the area they've just scanned with the drone. The model is accurate to within a centimetre.
So what we're trying to do is use the drone to be able to build up 3D areas and demonstrate this idea of a sacrificial drone in the future, bringing something down, scanning an area at very high speed with limited battery and possibly small arms fire, and then using that to build more accurate 3D representations of what's actually there.
It's technology that could one day be useful in combat.
Eventually, in real time, if it's flying over, for example, to try and find out where people are, whether there's disturbed areas on the ground, and give the troops a more situational awareness of where they are on the ground.
The more remote our armed forces get from the action, from the surveillance, from the intelligence gathering, the more or the higher quality of information they're going to demand before they can make quite significant decisions on what they're going to take out and what they're going to observe in more detail.
For the time being, this technology is in the early stages, and this is just an experiment. It takes hours to generate the 3D model today, but the troops of the future could see it in real time. It's technology that's inspired by the movies, the gaming world and science fiction, and one day it could have uses on the battlefield. Charlotte Cross, Forces News, Birmingham.
This is NFL Next. While most people think virtual reality is best used to play the newest action game or watch an immersive video, NFL players are using the technology to perfect routes, timing, and footwork.
First and foremost, it gets people extra reps. They get to feel like they're on the field, but their teammates don't have to be there. Second of all, we can give you what I call rare moments. Think about 3 moments you've had in your career that made you a better quarterback. We can capture those, and once we've captured these transformational moments, you can have them on demand. The other thing we can do in virtual reality is what I call your digital footprints. So in virtual reality, all of your body movements are tracked, meaning in order to update the world so it looks right, we have to know what your body's doing.
It's fascinating, some of the technology that teams are using to prepare. The virtual reality systems, the ones that Strivers does, I got a chance to check out this offseason, and really cool. I think it gives you a different perspective when watching film and can be helpful in preparation.
Luck and the Indianapolis Colts aren't the only ones intrigued by the potential of VR to hone their skills. The Arizona Cardinals and nearly a dozen other teams have harnessed this technology to enhance their game day preparation.
Teams from around the country will film their practice and upload footage to us. We basically process it, stitch it together, and then deliver it back to the client. So you can go on the field in the morning, we can take your footage, and at night, the quarterback can come in and see the footage from that day in the VR headset.
What if you can push a button on your phone and all of a sudden 22 virtual guys popped up on the field with you and you can play a game by yourself against a virtual opponent? So we've seen great responses both at the collegiate level, high school level, and even in the NFL, quarterbacks and safeties and linebackers using the digital renderings to get a better idea of what they're going to be seeing come practice time, come the game.
Stanford quarterback Kevin Hogan started using VR a lot in the last 3 games of the season. And he also had his best 3 games in 2014.
And when Coach Shaw saw that what they were doing in VR was transferring to the field, he decided about halfway through the season to make this mandatory for all the players. We showed great reduction in reaction time and how quickly they learned to make decisions, and increased accuracy. They were more likely to recognize this particular defense.
Football is a physical game. VR creates the opportunity to simulate a situation and run it as many times as possible, getting players more experience without the possibility of injury.
So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are using our digital simulation software. They're using Sidekick. And with them, what we're doing is putting some of their play schedules into the software for the quarterbacks to then study your upcoming opponent for the week. All their defenses are in simulations against your offense. And then that gets updated on all the players' apps on their phones. And the benefit to them is I don't have to round up the whole team to shoot some footage for me. I can go into the computer, I can punch in exactly what I want to see, similar to picking plays in Madden.
If I'm the player, I'm in the VR, my coach knows what I'm seeing. So if I look left, he could say, why'd you look left? Or if I look right, he goes, yeah, that's the right read. Everyone who's gone in who knows football knows what advantage this is. It's an awesome coaching tool because it's not totally confined to the viewer's perception. It can be duplicated so that a coach can coach him while he's in virtual reality. And that's what the Minnesota Vikings have done with their quarterback coach.
It's hard to predict anything, let alone the impact of a new technology on the NFL or on football as a whole, but I think there's a place for it to be used.
What has been portrayed as technology of the future is the technology of now. Virtual reality will become more realistic and immersive. With an arsenal of new technology, the NFL players of the future will only become quicker, smarter. This is NFL Next.
So I've been working in the field of virtual reality since the late 90s, and I've seen more technological change in the last 18 months than I've seen in the past 17 years before that combined. You can talk about fancy displays and resolution, but what's critical for the experience to feel real is your body moves and the scene updates as a function of your body. And when VR is done well, there's no technology. There's no gadgets. It's not about pixels or refresh rate. It's an experience. There's complete mental transportation. You forget that you're even wearing the helmet. You are just mentally transported somewhere else. I do believe fans will be able to put on the head-mounted display and have a highlight reel and get to experience play and feel what it's like to be someone else for a minute. We like to say the brain has not yet evolved to differentiate a compelling virtual reality experience from a physical one.
So there's something about your brain where even if everything is telling you and firing and saying this is not real, when you're in virtual reality and you have this sense of presence and being there, which is really hard to get on a normal flat media screen. By using VR, you can feel like you are that franchise manager in the Madden game, but for your real life teams, and you can project that to people all over the world. I think everyone ends up winning in that situation. One thing we do at Oculus is we do a lot of research into what types of games are going to be most fun in VR. When you have touch controls, you don't want to have to constantly be doing this and this, you'll get tired. Maybe the right football mechanism is you're a receiver. You don't have to do the running, but you look and then you have to actually reach out and catch in the right place. And then once in a while, you're the QB. You can't actually throw 55 passes a game. You can find the right mix where it's a lot of fun to give you that sense, realizing that we are not world-class athletes at home.
You know, you augment your viewing experience by just getting to live a play. But that's enough. I mean, VR feels really real. I don't know if you want to get hit. VR is very intense, and there's some things you want to do, and there's some things where you want to have that distance.
Soon this fantasy will be in households across the globe. Will it change the way people interact? The way people watch football? Will virtual reality change the world for the better?
One thing I'd love to see in the far future is to really give fans not just the ability to seem as if they were a player on the field, but to get full access to kind of every link in the chain. If you could actually beam that experience to people where you're sitting next to your favorite player, you look to your right and you see them, and you look ahead and the coach is there firing up the team, that's something that is less about the money of going to the game, but about creating that emotional connection in a deeper way that you can't normally get from watching that thing on a TV. The seat at the 50-yard line in the first or second row, that might go for around $1,000 a ticket. But what you could also do is sell that same seat for $10 a ticket to 100,000 people.
Being able to watch a game from virtual reality while sitting in your living room, I think the more isolated the fan is, the less enjoyable it is. You want to be able to socialize and look at your buddy and say, did you see that? Like, that's amazing. You want to be able to get up, move around.
You can create an avatar of your friend and they'll be in that experience with you, but it's their real voice and it's the real movement.
Could there come a time where you forget that you're in virtual reality or not? Maybe. I'm not a philosopher. We have to go a long way in terms of taking the technology out of the equation so that virtual reality is more like magic.
50 years from now, the fidelity of these systems is going to be to the point where you can't tell what's real and what's not.
We live in an ever-changing world. Technology changes daily. Virtual reality is set to explode onto the global marketplace. Where do you think it will go?
Imagine you can experience your product virtually before any physical prototype is available. Imagine you understand the challenges early on. Imagine you avoid errors before they occur. Immersive virtual engineering will make it happen. ESI believes in the power of immersive virtual engineering as a unique approach to intuitively experience innovative products in their environments. ESI's virtual reality solution ICI Do is the most powerful and complete solution on the market. 100% dedicated to the needs of engineers and decision makers.
I think what makes ICID unique is that we are not only visualizing the product in the virtual prototype, but at the very same time we provide the real-time physical behavioral experience that come along with the design, and not only is visual experience.
Today, ICIDO is used by industrial manufacturers from various sectors for collaborative exploration and resolution of design challenges throughout product engineering, manufacturing, and after-sales. Being a global leader in rail technology, Bombardier Transportation has recognized the importance of immersive virtual engineering from a very early stage.
We strongly believe that virtual reality can support our left shift approach to earlier detect any issues we could have during the development. Our target is very clear using ICIDO is to reduce drastically the number of change requests, around 60 to 70%.
Through ICIDO, all decision makers are able to experience their virtual prototypes in a truly realistic way, from the earliest stages of design and manufacturing. Using ICIDO to perform collaborative and immersive design reviews helps Bombardier to validate feasibility aspects and speed up the design for the manufacturing process by evaluating and optimizing assembly sequences.
To me, it was an eye-opener. So ICIDO really made our products come alive. So to touch the product, to walk through a product, to simulate, add functions and logics to the product in a real behavior based on physics. So that's all what ICIDO and virtual reality is about, simply saying.
Although today, ICIDO is used widely by large companies across automotive, commercial vehicle, and aerospace sectors, more and smaller businesses successfully implement ICIDO in their virtual product development process. Bausch & Ströbel, world leader in pharmaceutical packaging machinery, has invested in ICIDO to enable their engineers to immerse themselves in a 3D environment in which they can interact in real time with a life-size CAD model.
Thanks to ICIDO, production lines can be visualized and discussed with the customer in a very early stage of the development phase. This way, customer requirements can be analyzed and discussed in good time, which ultimately means that projects can be completed more quickly and result in higher quality products.
ICIDO enables Bausch & Ströbel engineers to predict usability issues early in the development process. Using ICIDO, they can simulate assembly and disassembly sequences of their machines, check the reachability of control elements, operate design reviews, and predict possible ergonomic issues. ESI's virtual reality solution, ICIDO, represents the results of over 20 years of industry-driven development and is the acknowledged worldwide leader in immersive virtual engineering solutions. Our mission is striving to develop the most efficient way for engineers to tap the power of immersive virtual engineering, to make better decisions, ideate, and innovate with confidence.